Is Sonic Forces still as bad as you remember? Short answer, yes. Long answer, well, let's talk about it. It's been half a decade since we saw the release of the 2017 title Sonic Forces. Most expected it to be on par, or even better than Sonic Generations, since it seemed to be a sequel to that game with the return of classic Sonic, old enemies, and even an original character, and the game was coming out on the 25th anniversary. It also seemed to have a pretty promising story that would change the way that Sonic games had their stories written. Yeah, that wouldn't happen for another 4 years till about Sonic Frontiers. When coming back to the topic of Sonic Forces though, I haven't really played the game since around 2020, and I didn't even complete a full playthrough. So recently, I replayed the entire game in one sitting to give myself a fresh new perspective on the game, and overall, well, I hated it. So enough with forcing myself to keep talking, let's chat about Sonic Forces. If for some godforsaken reason you clicked this video and haven't seen anything nor played Sonic Forces, well, I can give a quick overview on everything that this game offers. Sonic Forces comes with 3 playable characters: Modern Sonic, Classic Sonic, and the original character. For Modern Sonic, we have his gameplay style coming from games like Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, and Sonic Unleashed. We have Sonic, who plays his stages as he did in those 3 games with the boost formula. His stages are meant to be fast-paced and jam-packed with good platforming. Seems whoever wrote that was a big liar. Over to Classic Sonic, the guy who got 2 games to star in during the same year. Nice! Wait, why is he here? Nobody knows. His gameplay is a very botched version of how he controlled in Sonic Generations, and now he has this new ability at the time, the drop dash. Also, mainly nitpicking, but I don't like that you can't control him with the D-pad, so I'm not really a 2D joystick kind of guy. If Classic Sonic stages could be described in one word, I'd use frustrating. Lastly, let's talk about the original character. He is beyond the worst addition to this game. Sure, the concept of having your own original character seems like a fun concept, but in execution, it really isn't. He isn't all too different gameplay-wise from Modern Sonic, having the only difference be the Wispin he's so fond of using, and having half of Sonic's old abilities. And on top of that, his stages could easily be converted into a regular Sonic stage, so they aren't even needed or mandatory, so it's kind of like a forced third gameplay style. And that's mostly all there is for characters. I guess something cool is a skin swap for Sonic with Shadow, and an X-paid-for Super Sonic DLC. Yeah, don't forget when Sega thought they could get away with charging money for a game feature that has been free since literally 1992. Moving forward, let's quickly cover the story. Okay, I don't want to really ramble, so here's a short, abridged version of the story. Sonic and friends get attacked by Eggman and Edgelord, who is powered up by a gem, which also appeared in Sonic Mania. Sonic gets beat up, tortured for months on end, even though he doesn't reflect it.
The only thing inevitable here is my foot kicking your butt.
And after that, power of friendship or something, and boom, Death Egg version 600 gets beaten with the power of friendship. Again, heavily abridged, but I think you get the picture. Now that folks new and old have this nice and fresh memory on Forces, let's talk about what went wrong. Again, short answer, a lot. The whole idea of a post-apocalyptic Sonic idea could have worked, and with the way you look at the teaser trailers, it looks really interesting. But pause. You fucked up the second he showed up. Being just honest, he doesn't need to be here. In the same year he had this own standalone game. Why does he need to be here? Please, for the love of God, leave! Okay, cool. Now moving even more forward, this game's story doesn't follow its already established lore and gets stories from previous Sonic games messed up. Sonic gets beat up, sure, I get it. 1 versus 5 isn't really entirely fair, and I like that Sonic loses cause it makes sense. Then we cut to his two-tailed piece of shit just watching. Why? He is Sonic's best friend, and it has been shown in the past that he can hold his own. But no, let's play with the Wii U gamepad. So I ask again, where was Tails when Sonic was getting fucked up?
It is of no concern.
Cutting to a time skip where apparently the world is taken over by Eggman. Oh, guess what? It happens off screen. Also, Sonic gets tortured for a few months. Nice, so I expect a more serious toned Sonic who's probably pissed. But what do we get?
How could I lose to the likes of you again?
That was a blast. Bring some chili dogs next time.
Honestly, just having this be the start of everything we're talking about, this shows how the game goes on. I don't care enough to be talking about this, so let's just move forward past this fucking joke of a story, and let's talk about the Avatar and Infinite. I want to get this out of the way, that the Avatar and Infinite were extremely good ideas of characters that had questionable executions. Starting off with Infinite, his whole arc was mainly, what was his motivation again?
Worthless.
I am not weak.
He only works with Dr. Eggman to show everyone that he's not weak after getting his ass kicked by Shadow and hearing the Hedgehog call him worthless and pathetic, which, I mean, he's right. So the main thing that bugs me past his Power Ranger villain-ass mindset is the conclusion to his arc when Sonic finally beats him with the OC. It's him running away. I'm not kidding, by the way. This is literally the last time we see him after he flies off. Maybe he took a few days off, who knows? Moving more into the OC, they are supposedly a civilian who Infinite tormented, and I guess this OC grew a pair and decided to join the Resistance for that reason. The boss fights are also not too bad, but I never really cared too much for them. Moving forward, the OC freed Sonic from space jail and actually beat Infinite on a one-on-one confrontation, so good for him. The whole grappling hook thing, which I guess can be used in a Spider-Man-like web shooter fashion, is pretty okay. And the Wispin is whatever. It's the most creative use out of the Wisps, but I mean, it's not that much, so... The OC's customization was okay. It was limited, but I guess it was fine. Overall, I really don't mind the end for how the story of the Rookie, or the OC, goes, with him having an attempt at a touching moment with Sonic before running off into the distance, never to be seen again. And that's all for the original stuff that was in this game. Now let's get into what happened to the Blue Blur and his passive variant, which I think most people are sick of. We already touched upon the gameplay a bit in the overview, so let's just get into what I think was done wrong. Starting with modern Sonic, let's just be honest, his interpretation in Sonic Generations to at least before Frontiers is the peak of how Sonic should control in the boost formula. They really messed up here. His abilities feel very botched, and they bring back the boost meter color style with the need of the white wisps to restore Sonic's boost meter rather than rings, which would normally do the job. And my question is, why? This is such a pointless feature to bring back. Like, it made sense in colors, but not here. Next, half of Sonic's stages can be completed in around a minute and a half or less, and they're extremely short and honestly boring. They all keep the same general difficulty, and it just becomes repetitive and boring throughout the entire game. Along with this, there isn't any real multiple paths or multiple choices for where to go, so it feels like I'm playing the same boring stage every time, with the boost to win becoming a legitimate sentence you can say for this game. Furthermore, Sonic's controls suck because they didn't know what to give the OC, so they gave him half of his abilities. Sonic's Lightspeed Dash, Drift, and Wall Jump are all abilities given to the Wispon and the OC, showing that they really had no clue what to do with him, so this was their next best course of action. Other than that, I mean, Sonic plays relatively the same, with most of his stages being lackluster. It's just not all that surprising. In this game, Classic Sonic had every single thing that made him decent in Generations dialed back by 10, and made him feel very sluggish. He doesn't pick up speed as fast, and they tried to somehow make up for it with the drop dash, but it really doesn't work. Along with that, the spin dash is pathetic. His levels are sluggish, and to be honest, 9 times out of 10, the second I reach his stages, I want to just close the game. So with the level design for Classic already not being too great, and his own controls being scuffed, Classic Sonic in general is not that great on his own. Now, I know I spent the last few minutes ripping Sonic Forces its 1 millionth asshole, because obviously I'm not the first and probably not the last to talk about why this game is so bad. But I want to take a quick moment to mention some things I believe Forces got right, and some ideas that, if revisited, could potentially be a cool feature for future Sonic titles. So when it comes to ideas that need more time in the oven, let's start with the Wispin. Yes, the Wisps are beyond overdone, and I wouldn't mind if we never saw them again in another Sonic game, but when you look at games like Sonic Frontiers offering more playable characters, someone like Tails could use a weapon like this and have an artificial wisp power, which could be cool if refined. Although Sonic's air boost is a lot better in Frontiers, at this point it's already pretty good. But I do like the start to this concept that started in Sonic Forces, which offers Sonic an aerial boost that's a lot better than the past games in general up to this point. Next up, the Sonic Forces story. I said more than enough talking about the matter, but I can say something of this magnitude could definitely happen again if it was better cooked and overall had a lot of ambition. The final thing I could probably touch upon is the soundtrack, but come on, everyone knows that most of, if not all, Sonic soundtracks slap. Many of the tracks in Forces aren't the best, but there are a lot more good than bad from what I remember. The main theme song of the game, Fist Bump, is a bop, and there are many other tracks I'm a huge fan of, like Luminous Forest and Aqua Road. And although some of the classic Sonic themes had downright pitiful instrumentation, I still thought the composition themselves were pretty solid. But mostly I'd go with Ghost Town as my favorite track of the classic Sonic stages. Overall though, Sonic Forces is far from my favorite Sonic game, and although some things were done right, a majority of it wasn't, and this is where the game falls flat. Is Sonic Forces as bad as you remember? Yes, but there are a few things that are pretty cool to look back on. Hey, and welcome to the end of the video. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, as it would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you like content like mine, because most of my videos are relatively the same. All links to my socials like my Twitter, Twitch, and Discord will be down below if that interests you. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves and have a good one.